Alright, so we're back in Fallout 4. I sound a little different because I've acquired some kind of illness, first world problems, but the things I do for YouTube. So we're here in Diamond City. I've already met one of the extremely sophisticated residents who appears to be selling mystery meat from the school cafeteria. I'm telling you guys, vegans would hate this game. I mean, after that encounter, I remember I'm supposed to go to the detective agency to advance the plot, so that I do. Upon entering, I find no detective, but literally the most stereotypical secretary I've ever seen in my entire life. So, apparently Nick, who's the actual detective, has gone missing, so this lady's still working even though her boss, the cornerstone of the entire business, is probably dead. She's still here, though, so... of course, my first instinct, after asking for clues, is to ask for money. And the problem with these terrible dialogue options is I have no idea whether or not Jonathan the IX is going to be smooth about it, or just, blurt out, I need money. But obviously, I have to go find Nick now, because it doesn't look like even his own secretary cares enough to even make a half-hearted effort, or tell the guards or something. So I decided that in exchange for probably saving Nick's life, if he's still alive, it's justified for me to take any useful items from the detective agency, because a life is invaluable, of course. But too bad Codsworth, the Justice Warrior, apparently doesn't agree with my motives.
I would have thought we were above that sort of thing.
Dogmeat never complained like this, so as soon as I exit the agency building, I walk into some kind of stick-up where one guy is threatening to shoot another guy. This little stick-up is soon ended by the Diamond City security, who proceeds to blow guy number one's head just clean off. Apparently it doesn't count as stealing if I just go ahead and take some items from this dead guy in the middle of the road, so I just do that then. We're on our way to find Nick Valentine, this Nick Valentine fellow, for no more than 15 seconds before we're getting attacked by raiders, but it's okay because Codsworth kills them all before I even get a chance to see them. I feel like the follower shouldn't be 3 times as powerful as the protagonist at this point, but that's just me. Other dangers away too, though, such as irradiated mudcrabs from Skyrim, which are almost impossible to kill at this level. After that, I found what appears to be a homeless shelter burning a campfire full of everlasting rubber tires. I figure I could probably take a few things from here if I want to survive another day. Later on, I find a workbench and eventually figure out that I can rename weapons, so obviously I have to rename my sniper rifle, but I decided not to rename anything else because I'll probably forget what everything is then. What follows is the usual: killing a couple ghouls, borrowing some supplies from a deceased fellow in the middle of town, and discovering 3 separate locations all within an 8-second time period. One of those 3 locations just happens to be the area where Nick allegedly is, so I go in, and after listening to a short dialogue between some bad guys, gunplay ensues. But another near-death experience, but well worth the risk because there was some great items at the end, like a plastic pumpkin in one of the stalls, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, don't worry though, that wasn't the only firefight in this train station though. Oh no. So I walk down the flight of stairs and I'm greeted with an orchestra of 1960s gangsters, which are a lot classier than today's gangsters, I might add. But regardless, they're still hostile, and they're in the way of the objective, and they can't be reasoned with, so they need to die. The problem seems to be that apparently I've yet to acquire a semi-decent weapon, and these guys don't take any damage, and Codsworth is conveniently just nowhere to be found at this point. So, also apparently headshots aren't an instant kill. So much for that sniper rifle, too. Plus, Jonathan the IX is literally the shakiest hands known to mankind, so sniping is almost impossible anyway. But yeah, the hostiles don't end there, though, even after eventually killing all those guys. The Triggermen, or whatever they're called. There's more of them just loitering around in the abandoned subway system, waiting for an unsuspecting protagonist to just walk in. Normally this wouldn't be a problem, but the thing about this addition to the Fallout franchise is that the enemies actually make an attempt to take cover, and thus avoid dying. And that's just a huge problem. And plus there's a 15 millisecond delay on the mouse input in my Fallout 4 installation. I don't know if anyone else has this issue, but it legitimately affects things like fast-paced firefights, so let me know if there's an actual fix for this. Also, apparently the Pip-Boy activation for vault doors is a one-size-fits-all ordeal, which is potentially the worst security idea since the most recent 30,000 emails. And it looks like the people from Vault Tech weren't any smarter than the people of 2016 after all. Anyway, I'll give you one guess as to what was in the vault when I entered in it. And if you guessed more Triggermen, then you'd be absolutely right. And at this point, the strategy is just to get Codsworth to inflict as much damage as possible before going in for the kill shot. Something else that's interesting is that half of these mafia men carry around full-size watermelons just right in their coat pockets. And I'll admit that I'm not an expert in 1960s culture, but this is definitely new. Another thing that's interesting but not really, is that novice locks in this game are just about the worst thing ever. They're just terrible. All they ever have in them are duct tape and tools from the Home Depot. Could it be due to the fact that Jonathan the Ninth has 1 star of luck? I don't know. I actually don't know. I make it to the presumable gangster overlord who goes by the name Dino. Of course, he's in a room all by himself with no security, so I inflict a headshot that does literally 5% damage, so this guy could take 19 shots at the head and still be alive. Cosworth and Jonathan engage and emerge victorious, of course, as the protagonist and his companion almost always do. After that encounter, I get a notification that I have successfully found Nick Valentine, even though I haven't. I just walked close enough to the objective for the game to assume that I wasn't an idiot. In the meantime, I found a milk vending machine. Like I said, vegans would hate this game. But after the milk... Are you kidding me with that airplane? After the milk vending machine that didn't actually have any milk in it, we find him. The man, the myth, the legend, Nick Valentine himself, in a pretty comfortable looking enclosure. Inside the enclosure there's a bobblehead that looks a lot like the one I have on my desk, actually. Apparently the bobblehead gives an amazing perk, though. All vendors are now automatically 100 caps richer, which is amazing. Surprisingly, though, Nick wants to leave, so we do.
Let's blow this joint. Then we'll talk.
As it turns out, though, the Mafia men actually don't want Nick to leave his room, so more gunplay ensues. The thing is, though, I now have Codsworth and Nick, so I can probably do even less fighting than before. In fact, I could probably do almost nothing. I'm actually amazed at the amount of situational dialogue Nick Valentine has, though. He makes a new comment like every 30 yards we travel, but I don't expect this to continue after this quest, though, because by then Nick will probably be optional. But, yeah, from there on out, it's mostly watching Nick shoot his captors and occasionally stepping in to help him. I have no idea where Codsworth is half the time. He's probably curled up somewhere in dormant mode. It's funny because some of the triggermen actually have pretty decent firearms, and then we have the other ones who literally carry on wooden baseball bats as their only weapon. At this point, it's pretty obvious that Nick is a robot of some kind. The only weird thing is that he appears to have, like, skin grafts on his metallic face. I don't think that's fooling anyone. Another amazing thing I noticed is that Bethesda thought it would be nice to distinguish between rusted items and non-rusted ones, or unrusted ones. Just in case, I want to pick up a tin can, but I also want to make sure that there's not any rust on it, as you can see by this distinctly noted unrusted tin can here on the ground. At the literal end of the tunnel, there's a lock, which apparently Nick can just pick with his bare metal hands, which I guess is like having infinite bobby pins for him. So if picking locks is actually a thing that Nick does consistently, I might just have to keep him around for the whole game. After that, though, we get to what appears to be the boss of this whole 1960s gang, and there's a short dialogue, and Skinny, or whatever the guy's name is, he doesn't even seem to be that upset about having like 30 of his guys killed, probably more than that. They get some dialogue options with the girl Nick thought had been kidnapped, and I try convincing her to leave because, Jonathan the Ninth, he's just a noble citizen, and for some reason, though, it actually works. One thing about this game, I will say, is that the voice acting is a little bit better than than previous Fallout installments and previous Bethesda RPGs. Except, I temporarily withdraw that comment because Skinny Malone's voice acting after the girl decided to leave was literally the worst I've ever heard in my life.
Darla, where are you going?
Home, Skinny, where I should have been all this time. This is goodbye for us.
Oh, come on, Nikki. You cost me my men, now you and your friend cost me my girl?
My friend here just did you a favor, Skinny. You always did have bad taste in women.
The funny thing is, though, even after killing most of his men and convincing his girl to leave him, Skinny Malone isn't even mad enough to break out into violence, so this is quite the plot twist, isn't it? Instead, he pulls the classic I'm gonna count to 10 card, which I remember this one from my early childhood.
I still see your face after that. I'm gunning both of you down.
Jonathan's never been one to encourage violence, especially not against someone who's helpless enough to wear a fedora, so out we go. But will Jonathan the Ninth and his fellow followers escape? Tune in next time, approximately 10 years from now, for the next installment of Fallout 4 Narration, or whatever the heck this is called.